Welcome to the TGEN Tribunal, a roundtable discussion with your favorite T-generates about gaming, entertainment, and culture. Brought to you courtesy of the Gaming and Entertainment Network, a podcast network dedicated to honest and fun talk about gaming and leisure. Please visit us at tgenetwork.net for more information on our shows. Hi, everybody, and welcome to TGEN Tribunal number 3, which is also doubling as Beyond Bossfights 20 this month. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. This is a little bit different than what we've done before on Beyond Bossfights. We're actually having a roundtable discussion, but it is the same thing that we've done on the other TGEN Tribunals, if you've listened to those. And if you haven't, they're over at the TGEN website, so please feel free to drop by and check those out. Tonight on the roundtable, we have a variety of guests and also topics. So let's go ahead and introduce them. First of all, we have Bell Gast from the podcast Aggro Chat. Hey, Bell.
Hey, folks.
We also have Jason from the new MMO show.
Howdy.
Syl is here from Battle Bards.
Hello.
We have Roger from the also new Burton and Scrooge podcast.
Evening.
And we have Leor or Jessica from Cat Context.
Howdy, eh?
We have so it's kind of like an all-star, star-studded cast here, and so appreciate everybody showing up on this weekend day. Thought first thing that we would start off with is talking about expansions, because this is kind of, for MMOs, this is kind of the year of expansions. We don't have any big names launching this year, but we have a lot of expansions coming out that people are talking about. There's a lot of buzz about in the press, and so the two that have been kind of batted around the most are Heavensward. Is it Heavensward or Heavensward? Who's the...
Don't ask me.
Who's the expert on that one?
I think it is technically Heaven's Ward, but I'm not sure.
I think it's actually a word play in a way, I think, because the Heaven's Ward are like soldiers or something, like a group of something, right, Belle?
Yeah. Basically, they're a bunch of religious zealots, essentially.
Yeah.
But also, this is the expansion where we are going to the sky and we get to fly.
Exactly,
so we're
we
going
get to fly.
heavenward.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Yeah. Square does things.
And the other expansion of note is Heart of Thorns, not Heart of Thrones. So I guess maybe the key thing to remember here is that all the expansions are very easily mispronounced this year.
Yeah.
So do we have some Guild Wars 2 players in the house as well?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. I play occasionally. I think mostly the last couple of weeks I played daily, but it's mostly to log in and get my daily reward.
Yeah, like I kind of dabble in the game, but I have this weird love-hate relationship with Guild Wars 2. But mostly it's to log in and get free stuff.
Yeah, and I'm definitely looking forward to the expansion, but I've looked into it, but I've purposely avoided, like I didn't do the beta weekend last week, and I kind of want to. I have a base idea of what it's going to be, but I want to just kind of go in fresh once it comes out. Whenever it comes out.
Yeah, they haven't actually even announced a launch date for it yet, have they?
No.
I think it's kind of cool. Like, we all used to really look forward to the new game. You know, what's the new hype game going to be? And now it's more like the expansions are what we're all getting hyped up about. Or in the case of, like, WildStar, it's payment model change or finding reasons to get hyped for existing games, which I think is kind of cool.
Well, there's not really much coming out new, is there? I mean, not big MMOs. There's kind of like Skyforge and some of the other smaller ones. But yeah, it kind of seems like everyone's just bouncing from game to game right now.
Well, there's still EverQuest Next.
True, yeah. Whatever that is.
Still hold that punch.
EverQuest not.
Yeah, that is so sad.
Or just NeverQuest.
Yes.
I know, I see what you did.
Well, it seemed like for a while there we were hearing that games were going towards a more a faster release cycle with smaller amounts of content, but now we're kind of back on the old horse of let's release a big, huge expansion so that we can be sure to hype it up and charge for it. Is that kind of, is the pendulum swinging back the other way now?
Wow, Blizzard has been saying over and over again for the last number of BlizzCons that they're moving to the smaller expansions, shorter time of life of content, and we can see how well that might not be working out for them. So perhaps going back to the sort of the large, ponderous paid expansions is a good idea.
Well, so the problem with their notion of going to smaller expansions and shorter release time is they got part of that equation correct. They went to a smaller expansion, but they sure haven't decreased the amount of time between things happening. So, yeah, like I feel like they got the worst of both worlds there.
It's because they're busy with Overwatch, Belle. Didn't you know?
Totally. Well, I mean, and to be truthful, if you think of it from the Blizzard perspective, right now they have Heroes of the Storm and Hearthstone, both making them a lot of money. And in both cases, they are built around small development cycles to release new content, and content in the new form of, champions or card sets. And the amount of effort it takes to make those items versus the amount that they're going to get from them is actually greater than the investment of an MMO cycle. So, I mean, I feel like from a money perspective, they're going to keep leaning on those titles as their primary source of income. And my fear is that World of Warcraft is going to keep getting relegated to the back burner.
But then people have said that for a very long time. I mean, at the end of Wrath of the Lich King, everyone was convinced that, this was it. And now Warcraft is just going to decay to the cash cow while they are focusing on new projects. And then after Cataclysm, everyone was saying that. And then after Pandaria, and they always somehow manage to keep World of Warcraft alive and kind of pack the content anyway. So I just wonder if there's ever going to be a time when Blizzard really decides, okay, we're not really going to invest much into World of Warcraft anymore. Even though I agree with what you're saying, it's a lot easier to create content for something like Hearthstone, but at the same time, World of Warcraft is still making them a lot of money.
Well, so honestly, I think it's been on a decline since Wrath of the Lich King. And I started a spreadsheet where I was keeping track of the amount of content that they released in every patch for every expansion up into the current. And there's a lot of the current one that I didn't have information on. But for each expansion, there have been fewer dungeons and fewer raids and fewer total bosses to fight in the end game. So it may not seem like there's been a decline, but there's absolutely a sheer number of content that has been released since Wrath of the Lich King has been a slight downward slide.
Yeah, I'm going to be the person that says the controversial thing for the TGEN podcast. Since Wrath of the Lich King, people have been saying, oh, we're tired of these year-long content droughts, and the patch, as Belle said, the actual content of the expansions gets smaller and smaller, and yet people are still, so devoted to this game. It's crazy. I'm seeing the same people now for, their fourth expansion in a row be like, oh, well, I'm sure this time it's going to come. The next expansion is going to be a lot faster, and I'm sure they're going to change, and they don't change. They just get worse, and people still love them. So, I mean, good on Blizzard. They have some dedicated fans.
But that's a reflection on gamers themselves. They live in a perpetual state of cognitive dissonance. I don't like this. I hate this. You're terrible for doing this. Okay, I'll buy it.
Yeah, that's very true.
Wait, there's a bonus edition? Okay. Give me
exactly. That. Yeah, I mean, me and Brian moaned recently on Burton and Scrooge about, new Guild Wars 2 expansion. Not happy about the pricing model on that. And yeah, we're still going to end up buying it at some point. So, so what?
Nostalgia sucks. I mean, it is a way to get us to do anything. Is if you roll out enough nostalgia to make us remember those good times, we are going to try and live in that bubble of good times as long as we can.
Certainly, I think with ArenaNet and the expansion for Guild Wars 2, it's a question of, I paid $50. No, not $50. £50 for the base game when it came out, and I must admit that's all I've really spent on that game, and I've had a heck of a lot of value out of it. So I don't really, when I'm horribly honest with myself, object too much to spending a little bit more on another set of content. To me, I've been politely reminded of what good value I had last time round, so it makes sense to stick my hand in the pocket this time round.
Yeah, I didn't really understand it. Not being a Guild Wars 2 player, I know there was a lot of pushback against the pricing system for Heart of Thorns. And while I sort of can kind of understand based on what they were saying and what you got and whatnot, but still, that's a really good deal for 3 years of content like that.
Yeah.
That it breaks out to being a tiny amount of money every month, and it doesn't seem to be a problem to me.
Well, I think it's just a bad case of marketing. I mean, they should have just said that from now on, anytime you buy an expansion, you're also going to update your account or something like that. And EverQuest 2 used to do that, and they rolled it out as, well, we're going to basically create a baseline now. Anytime you buy an expansion, you're also going to get the base game and all the content before it. And it really wasn't a problem for the players. They didn't necessarily care that they were repurchasing the game. But the way it was worded was just weird. It made it sound like, oh, you're going to rebuy the main game again, and here's the expansion in addition to it. So I think it was just a marketing faux pas, and we're all going to buy the game, and it doesn't matter now, but it kind of annoyed me at the time.
So here's a question. In the old days, when they were selling box copies of expansions, they typically would have a collector's edition that came with all kinds of, maybe a statue or some kind of a physical goodie that you could keep around your desk as you played the game and remind yourself of the fact that you spent an extra $50 on the expansion. Does that still hold true today? I mean, they're still selling collector's editions and things like that, but most of the goodies and shinies are now digital objects. Does that kind of seem strange to anybody else?
Well, Final Fantasy XIV still had a physical collector's edition for Heavensward, and you actually did get a dragon statue or something.
Yeah,
and I think they were sold out fairly quickly. So I think gamers still actually like that.
Have any of you guys bought one recently? For like any game? Yeah, I haven't yet. I haven't.
So the last one that I picked up was actually recently, and it's not for a non-MMO. It was for Fallout 4 Pip-Boy Edition. I absolutely bought that version.
Oh, man. Oh, my household is going to be so jealous of that, let me tell you.
It's sold out everywhere.
I forgot. Yeah, I have that pre-ordered.
So
I forgot.
So my cousin pre-ordered it through somewhere in England because it was the only place he could find a Pip-Boy edition, and he's having to pay insane shipping to get it. But apparently that's going to be one of the rarer collector's editions, and I happened to click the link and it was available, and boom, sure, I want a Pip-Boy.
I was totally impulse, and I keep thinking when you just made me remember it, I've told myself I'm probably going to cancel that before it actually gets here, because the more I think about it, I mean, it's just a shell. It goes on your phone. It doesn't really do anything else.
I understand, but when they announced it at E3, it's just like, oh my god, are we going to have our own Pip-Boy?
Yeah. Am I practically going to wear that thing around?
Look,
no.
I am 12 and I want a Pip-Boy.
You're going to get one. I expect you to wear the hell out of that thing.
I am totally going to take a picture with it.
But I think the last physical special edition I bought was Burning Crusade with the art book and everything. Was probably the last one.
Mine was Old Republic, and I had to buy 2 of those things because Zelly, I had to get 2 of them, so we have them both sitting here just staring at us, mocking us.
So, funny story about Star Wars The Old Republic is I went with the digital collector's edition initially, and then everywhere around here was stuck with a glut of physical collector's editions, and Best Buy had it for like $20, and I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll pick it up.
No, I occasionally go to our Best Buy and they have this weird assortment of like 1 to 3 year old collector's editions still there. It's so weird.
Walmart has them too. Like, there's still a Mists of Pandaria collector's edition at Walmart around me.
I know you guys want the collector's edition of Watch Dogs. I know where you can get it.
Got burnt on Watch Dogs.
But generally, I'm really happy that we kind of moved away from the physical age of gaming. Because personally, I have all these boxes in my, cellar somewhere rotting away of games that I can't play anymore because either, I lost all my game pads or I don't have the console anymore or the module is actually decayed. And I'm over that age where I want to have physical things on the shelf just to look at, I guess. I'm happy to have access to my games from anywhere and just own them digitally. I want to own them in a way, though, but I don't want to necessarily have something physical that I, have to put somewhere and it gets dusty.
The DVD collections used to be like that. I mean, I haven't got any now. I have purged my home of physical media. But I can remember a decade plus ago having the Planet of the Apes movies deluxe collector's edition, and it was in a chimpanzee's head.
Yeah. How can you not buy that?
Right.
And it used to stare at you. It was really
Its
odd.
eyes followed you across the room.
Yes, this was not good. And, the Aliens edition, and that was in, a dirty, great big alien's head, and you put all the discs in. That was just weird. And you have to dust all these things, and the butler got well cross, so no, they had to go.
I think the big hook to me early on was for stuff like that. And I'm here looking at my my statue from Infamous 2 that, like, back then it kind of seemed like you didn't have easy access to nerd stuff like that, and now it's a lot easier with lots of different websites and cons everywhere. That I have other stuff like that I've just bought, and I don't really look at collector's edition statues as something cool anymore that I want in my house.
I guess for me, the problem that I ran into is I always want to include a statue. I only have so much shelf space for angry-looking people that are usually the villain of the expansion.
Yeah, it's true. You can have too many knickknacks in your house, and I think particularly maybe as people get older, they just want fewer little things everywhere. So for me, the physical collector's editions are not very compelling. And plus, as you said, Jason, it's easier to get access to this stuff now. Like way back in the day, you knew that you were only going to see this stuff once, and you might never see it again. Your Planet of the Apes ape head set, and so that you would go ahead and buy it because you probably were never going to see it again. And now, thanks to eBay and everything, nothing ever disappears.
Well, and I think another part of it is that early on, there was this whole hunt for the item, or at least for me, it was about going out to the store and acquiring this thing. And I would never pre-order. I would go on this mad hunt the day of the thing and try and find it. I spent many a lunch hour going from store to store trying to find the item because I, for some reason, had a mental block against pre-orders. And now I'm staring down the barrel of 40 years old, and I just want to get off from work and log in and play the thing. And I don't care about all the miscellaneous steps associated with it.
So mobile gaming is another thing that's kind of popped up in the last couple of years, and it's gone through several iterations of advancement, I guess, to this point. It started out with the first mobile game I can really remember, I think, is Plants vs. Zombies that I saw that I went, oh yeah, that is definitely a mobile game. Obviously, they released it on other platforms as well, but now you've got ones that are strictly designed for the types of mobile devices that are out there. You're thinking about the clicker type games and some of the card games actually work much better on a touch interface than on a PC. Let's go ahead and go in order. Do you guys play mobile games, first of all, Belgast?
Not often. I usually have 1 to 2 games installed on my phone at any given moment. Right now, pretty much the only one that I play on a regular basis is Final Fantasy Record Keeper. Mostly because it gives me the Final Fantasy feel, but, in a few minutes, so I can play it while we're out shopping or something like that. But on the whole, I don't play many mobile games.
Okay, hold that thought on the tie-in to the MMO, because I want to get into that a little bit later, too. Jason, do you play any mobile games? Yeah,
I play a lot. Mostly, my favorite thing to play on mobile and is probably... I'm a huge old school adventure game or point and click fan, and I've really enjoyed playing some of the remakes or even the newer stuff like Gemini Rue and the Telltale stuff. That's I prefer playing it that way than sitting on a PC or playing on a console. So I play probably every day.
Sil, how about you?
Yes, I have actually been playing a lot lately, mostly because, I got myself a tablet, and then I thought, okay, I really want to have a go at this mobile thing. And I had some fun with Cook Serve Delicious in the past, which is a great game that you can get on Steam as well, but it's so much more fun on tablet. And now I've been really looking all over the App Store for games that I can play, and I must say, it's just really, really hard. And I am baffled at the amount of rubbish that is on display in that shop. I mean, it's amazing, and the amount of cheap clones and just very, very poorly monetized games. And I just think it's such a pity, because there's actually something to be said for playing games in such a tactile and sort of active way. And there could be so much more that you can do with it. But for the most part, the games are just horribly poor, and just the in-app purchases for most of them are so in your face and clunky and horrible, and I don't get it. Why has this particular model become so dominant for mobile games? Because I would happily pay for games, if they came without that whole, pay for this, pay for that, microtransactions all the time. I would rather pay for the game. But there's very, very few games that you can just pay for and then play. So I think that's a real pity.
Yeah, I tend to wonder if the market's going to soon correct itself, because I know that it is very difficult to make money on a mobile game unless you're one of the really big ones.
So, but I've been playing Happy Street a lot lately, which I think is a very good example of a free game for mobile that is, fun and engaging, and it does have the in-app purchases thing, but it's not at all necessary. And there are alternative ways of playing. So I think it's one of the few good examples. But otherwise, I only play games that I've paid for, that I bought.
Yeah. Roger, how about you? Do you do any mobile gaming?
I only recently started this. Bought Zombie Gunship, which is self-explanatory. You have a gunship and you shoot zombies. And I like it. It's good for filling up those short dead periods that you have, say, when you're sitting at a bus stop or something like that, waiting to make your connection or something like that. I don't play a huge amount, mainly because I work from home. I'm based in front of my PC most of the day. So if I'm then going to take a break and play something, it naturally seems logical to me to just play something on the PC. But I am branching out. I mean, I've got Plague Inc. and Ministry of Silly Walks even that I picked up recently, which is quite amusing and a little diversion. But for me, I agree with Sil. I don't want to have to buy a product that then has lots of gates and obstructions that you either have to grind through or pay through. I would much rather pay a larger price and just have a complete game that you can move through from start to finish. If it's a decent game, I would pay a equivalent amount of money as I would for a PC sort of similar entity. So if it's a game that you could get 8 hours plus of entertainment out of playing your way through it, I would quite happily pay whatever is considered to be the reasonable going rate for that. I don't have to just say, oh, it's a couple of dollars. I'm quite happy to pay $20, $25 if it's a good game.
Would any of you ever consider subscribing to a mobile game?
I did briefly for Order in Chaos, which was a MMO, like a WoW clone, and it was something like $2.99 for 2 or 3 months. And I did that for 3 months and then stopped. It just I kept forgetting about it, and it like kind of I work at home too, and I'm mostly playing on my PC, and I didn't feel like I had the pull to go regularly log in on my iPad or phone or whatever.
I'm going to be the controversial one here, mostly because I honestly can't see myself ever subscribing for a mobile game, because I have this mental block, and to me, mobile games are lesser than traditional games. And I guess it's mostly because, if I'm going to be spending that amount of time playing a mobile game, it's more than likely going to be something I'm doing at home when I have access to a gaming laptop and a gaming desktop and a bunch of consoles, and I could just be playing one of those games instead. So I don't know, like I just can't see. I mean, it doesn't fit my lifestyle. I don't have a bus ride. I don't have. I mean, obviously, I would get in trouble if I were playing during my morning commute. So I can't see it. Like the gameplay that happens on a mobile device isn't compelling enough to me to pay a monthly fee for. I mean, that said, I'm more than willing to pay for a mobile game, and I have purchased numerous of the Final Fantasy console ports, and I play them periodically. But I don't know, like I just can't see myself paying for a subscription to a mobile game.
Okay, Lior, how about you?
Much, I think, like Roger said, I will play mobile games the 10 minutes you're waiting for the bus or whatever. But I'm not really a big mobile game person. The one that I do play is the behemoth, the juggernaut of mobile games, which is Puzzle and Dragons, which is terrible. Don't play that game. It's awful. And I play that. I've been playing that for probably about going on 6 months now. But it's perfect because you can pick it up for 10 minutes and do some stuff and feel like you've accomplished something and then put it down again and forget about it. But it is pay to... Well, they give you the opportunity to pay to get ahead, and occasionally I've taken them up on that opportunity, and yeah, they have
shame on you.
I know, I'm the worst. Occasionally, but like I will buy a game if it's good. Like I just bought You Must Build a Boat, which is fantastic.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh, I
so
love
bad
that
at that.
I beat that game last week, and then I never even had played 10 Million, which was their game before that. So I started playing that, and I beat that this morning.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and there's a good example. You know, I spent $3 on You Must Build a Boat. I loved it, and I immediately, as soon as I finished it, went back to the Google Play Store and bought 10 Million for another $3. So, you know, they did a good job, and that's a way that they could make more money out of me without trying to ding me for free-to-play barriers.
Oh, have you guys played Crossy Road? I just want to kill that chicken. It's so awful, that game. I mean, I can't stop.
I had one really good run in that game, and then I said, "Okay, I'm done. I beat it," and told myself that, so I would never play it again.
You can't really beat it, though, can you?
I know. I just kind of said, like, I got so far on the one run, I don't think it's going to take me forever to get back there, so I just told myself, I beat it. I'm done.
Right.
What I find fascinating with some of these simpler games, like, you know, Follow the Line as well, or Crossy Road, is that they're really about defeating yourself or sort of winning against yourself. It's all about nerves. Like, they're so simple and straightforward, but you're really your own enemy. And that's what I like about some of these games. It's just how cool can you stay while playing them? And really, I'm not a very cool person, so...
Yeah. It reminds me of old arcade games. You're just trying to beat your old high score.
True, and I'm not sure that's a model that would work well on a PC necessarily. Like, when I'm on my phone, I have 10 minutes to game, so, you know, doing something like Temple Run or whatever, where I'm trying to beat my previous high score, it makes sense, whereas I would find that exceedingly frustrating sitting at my computer for half an hour, like, you know, failing at Temple Run over and over again. That would not be fun.
Quit. Well,
right.
When's the last time you've rage quit with a PC game? Probably ages ago, but with mobile games, I'm raging hard.
So it's interesting that just about everybody here is playing or has played mobile games. I don't really. I would joke and say my mobile game on my phone is called Twitter. But it's funny because my kids know there's no reason to try and crack into my phone because there's nothing on there that they would want to do. However, my wife's phone, she actually plays some, I think it's very conducive to word games, kind of Scrabble-ish type games, and putting letters in the right order and things like that. And I can see the appeal for that. I just, typically when I have the time to sit down and do something for 5 or 10 minutes, I usually just flip on a podcast. And it's just kind of the habit that I've formed instead of using... And there's also in the back of my mind the old IT guys going, turn your screen off, you're wasting battery. So I try not to have the screen on very long when it's not plugged in.
You sure your wife's not a sleeper agent and she's actually decrypting messages for the intelligence services?
No, I wouldn't. I'm not sure of that.
Okay.
See, that would be my wife, because she tends to play like math puzzle games, so she could totally be decrypting messages.
The thing that does concern me a little bit about mobile games is they don't encroach upon my regular gaming time, because I don't play them at the sort of places and at the periods of time during my working day. So it doesn't take a dent out of my PC gaming time. It means that something else has got to go. As I said, I might be commuting, or I might be in the barbers or something like that, and I've got 10, 15 minutes. So I'll play a game, but that's time previously that I would have used for reading or listening to a podcast. So although I'm having fun, it means that I'm not doing something else. And because of the sort of person that I am, I have these voices at the back of my head saying, now you can't listen to that podcast. You're going to get into arrears with your reading. You're going to become a simpleton.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a good point, because my mobile game time and my podcast listening time tend to overlap considerably. And given the choice, I will almost always listen to a podcast instead of play a mobile game.
Yeah, I'm the same.
So I said I wanted to kind of come back to the MMO tie-in to mobile gaming, because it's kind of, we have certain MMOs that have taken advantage of the rise in mobile usage, and they've come out with applications where you can do certain things like get into guild chat for your kinship or guild, or do some kind of out-of-game management while you're not actually in front of your PC playing your MMO. I'm wondering, is anybody else surprised that we haven't seen more of that type of thing? It seems like some studios are very, very adverse to do anything that would allow you to do anything besides actually be in the game and be in front of your PC playing it.
I feel like the company that gives me phishing on a mobile phone device so I don't have to do it when I'm actually in game is going to make a killing.
Yeah, I'm surprised that hasn't happened
Fishing
yet.
sucks.
Yeah.
Phishing is a boring thing, but it's beneficial, and it's totally the kind of thing I would do while, waiting on my wife in the dressing room or something like that. I mean, I would absolutely sit there and fish for a couple things and then continue on. But nobody's done it. Like, nobody's really... Rift is the closest, I think, because they give you little scratch-off cards that actually give you items in-game. So by doing that, you can actually help gear your characters faster.
I was about to say, I always played those scratch cards when I played Rift. I loved that mobile app. That was great.
Like, the first thing that happens when I start being active in Rift again is I start playing the Scratcher every couple hours.
I think one that does it really well, and I don't think it's necessarily an app, but you can go on your mobile browser and it's formatted, is Neverwinter. You can do pretty much all of your sending companions off and doing all that on your phone.
That is such a sore point, because that system was originally developed for Star Trek Online, so you could allegedly do the duty officer system outside of the game, and I would kill people. I would kill people to have that, and they didn't develop it any further for Star Trek Online. They just expanded it further for Neverwinter.
That's strange.
The thing that doesn't make any sense to me is the garrisons in WoW are absolutely a mobile game inside of that game. I don't know why they don't actually just release it as a mobile game so you can log into your iPad or whatever and do your garrison duties. And I think a lot of people would be less frustrated with that game if they could do the upkeep type tasks outside of it.
I think that would also keep people who are on the edge of unsubscribing to subscribing a little bit longer if they could at least manage that stuff on their phone. Like, I haven't gotten my computer to sit down and play it, but I still feel like I need to keep the subscription going because I'm doing this on the go.
Absolutely. You would have thought that they would have made things like the auction house accessible to most MMOs outside of the game. So you finish your day at work, you're commuting home, and you think, I'll just quickly jump on the auction house, see if I can get a deal on a few items. It then keeps you involved. As we said about Neverwinter and Star Trek Online, there are facets of the game there, sort of little mini games in themselves. I would have thought it was common sense for most developers, if they can afford to do it, and maybe that is the issue, but if they can afford to do it, to open up aspects of the game to access from outside of the game client itself, just to keep people hooked, because we're so transient these days when it comes to MMOs.
Oh, yeah, being able to play the auction house either through my browser or through my phone definitely kept me subscribed longer than otherwise to both WoW and EVE. And, being able to sit at my lunch and wheel and deal was a big part of how I was playing for at least a few months.
Well, listening to this conversation, maybe I'm odd, but I don't want apps for the MMOs that I already play that are already taking up so much of my game time. And I would sort of feel, like the ultimate dominance over all of my time is taken up by this one MMO. And I would feel kind of pressured to actually then also use these apps because there might be an advantage by using them and I'm missing out if I don't use them. But I, as an MMO player, I'm already sort of limited. I don't play so many different games anymore like I used to. So I really want to spend the extra time that I have on other games and not on apps that are also about the MMO that is so dominant in my life. So I actually don't want that. Please don't make any Square Enixes. Else I have to play them. Yeah.
Well, there is a Triple Triad client coming for
what?
Yeah.
Oh.
There's absolutely a Triple Triad coming that is going to allow us to basically play the Triple Triad game for the benefit of our account.
See, I love that because I enjoy Triple Triad a lot, but when I'm playing it, when I'm logged into Final Fantasy, I kind of feel like it's wasting my game playing time because there's so many more things I could be doing than just, playing an NPC over and over again to try and get all their cards. So that's a perfect example of something that I would definitely use.
It's either out already in Japan or it's coming soon or something like that. But yeah, it was announced some time ago. It just hasn't made its way here yet.
The other thing that interests me a little bit about mobile is the change of attitude here. I think we have some people would consider some fairly hardcore gamers, at least from a standpoint of playing a lot of games and having a history of playing games. Now, very open and accepting to the mobile and maybe more social gaming aspect of things as opposed to, maybe 5 years ago, we would have laughed at the notion of spending our time in front of a phone instead of a PC.
Well, what's really interesting is the shift of what's starting right now with related to that is, there's MMOs that have just come out or are coming out that are going to be cross-platform PC with phone and tablet, like my son's been playing, and we've been playing some Lego minifigures online, and that's one where you can play Android, iOS, PC, all same accounts. And I just got on the summer alpha for Albion Online, and that's going to be the same thing. I think the Android version alpha is already out, but yeah, those are going to be, log in your same account across all of those and play.
Yeah, I've actually played Albion Online on my phone, and it's completely playable on a Samsung Galaxy S5. Yeah,
I've been playing that. We were talking about that last night, asking just how it translated.
Yeah, the interface is a little bit weird being scaled that small, but I could absolutely go around town and craft and things like that.
And that goes into kind of, I think, what Sil was saying. These games, then when are people going to stop playing them?
Yeah. And I have my tablet, next to my bed, so I can even hear progress in Happy Street when I'm sleeping. Oh, gosh.
As kind of someone who's represented at least a hardcore MMO player perspective in the past, I do play mobile games, but I'm very disappointed in myself for doing so. So I think that
that counts for something.
Yeah, that's consistency of thought.
Okay, Sil, you entered this. Actually, you've entered a lot of the topics for today, but this one makes me kind of smile when I read it because of the way you wrote it. It says, companion pets and mini pets in MMOs. Why do people love them?
Well, it's an interesting question.
Yeah, do you want to go ahead and further explain that?
Yeah, basically, I had a conversation the other day with the better half about the companion pets in Heavensward. Now, Final Fantasy XIV has, an amazing array of mini pets, like cute and fun and really great design-wise. And people love collecting those, just like they do in World of Warcraft and pretty much any other MMO we can think of. And the annoyance in Final Fantasy is that for most of the time when you're playing, you're not going to be able to have your companion pet along because for whatever reason, when you're in a party in a dungeon or when you're using your combat chocobo bird, you can't have a companion pet out at the same time. And my better half is really annoyed at that. You know, we have all these mini pets and I want to use them and I never see them and it's just out of order. And that kind of got us into talking why they are so popular. And we were asking, you know, is it because a lot of players in MMOs are actually kind of lonely these days? They're just soloing and they're in want for company. And instead of playing with other players so much nowadays, people might prefer the company of mini pets. And that was the context. I know a lot of us probably have collected or are collecting them. And I mean, what's your motivation behind that? Why do we actually really like these little critters that follow us around? And we're really unhappy when we can't have them around. I find that fascinating.
Laura, do you play any games where, I know you do. Do you have any games where you have some mini pets? And what are your thoughts on what Syl just said?
Well, you know, I'm not into cosmetic things. No, that's patently untrue, and everyone knows it. I do collect mini pets, but I will say it is like 50% because they're cute and I like having them around, and it's 50% because I like to collect things and I like looking at my numbers and being like, I have 2/3 of the pets in this game, and it's a very achievement-driven collection, much more than the actual act of having cute little pets. But I also like cute little pets around, so it's kind of both ways for me.
Mm. How about Roger? Do you have any affinity towards mini pets or companions in games?
Well, yeah, because my first MMO was Lord of the Rings Online, and my primary character is a lore master, and you get the pets for combat, but then there are cosmetic pets that you could collect. And again, I buy into the concept that I think most people like them because it's a collectible. And people like to collect. People like to have goals. People like to be able to parade around with a really obscure mini pet or companion behind them because then you've got bragging rights. So I think that's probably the predominant reason rather than you're so crushingly lonely that you even crave the affection of an inanimate group of pixels, you know.
I just want to feel something.
You know, I must exert my dominance over a mini pet because no one else respects me. I don't know. But no, I can see the fun in it. I think it very much depends on your relationship with the game. If it's a game that you are really heavily engaged in and you're at that sweet spot, that point where your relationship with the MMO is at its height, yeah, you'll happily collect these things. I mean, hey, I even did some stuff recently in Star Trek Online, and I had some spare festival vouchers, and I just thought, go and buy some mini pets. Okay, I've run around with the mini pets, putting them in my vault, but I did it. There is. It's just to me, it's just the appeal of collecting, which is very, very powerful in MMOs.
Yeah. So you posed the question, but what did you guys come to out of the course of that conversation?
I'm not sure that we really, came to an agreement. I just think that collecting is definitely a big part for a lot of people, like Roger. But I think there's something else there. Maybe it's the same. We were saying, like in real life, people have pets, and they actually. Why do we love to care for pets? Why do we love having pets around? It's probably fairly similar in MMOs for some people anyway. I mean, hey, there are even like, you can feed your pets in some games and put them on a leash. I mean, what is that about? That's not about just collecting them. That's sort of another level of interaction with an NPC. But it's different because it's your NPC and people miss their pets when they're gone. And I find that fascinating. I find it fascinating that there's such a special relationship within the game that transcends what you usually have with other NPCs that you just meet along, the road, and they're part of the story or something. And companion pets can be a bit more than that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird. I get overly attached to pets.
I'm an absolute junkie when it comes to pets in games. Like, there's pets in Final Fantasy XIV are actually kind of hard to get. There's a lot of them that are hard to get, and I have something like, almost 80 of them. So yeah, like I'm a junkie when it comes to pets. Like, even in games where the pets didn't do anything, I will collect a pet. For example, in Mass Effect, you could get a goldfish or various other things for your cabin, and I would absolutely do that. And I don't know why I would do that, but I think it does tie back to some people just have an affinity towards pets in general. Like, I have 3 cats and 2 ferrets and have had all manner of other animals before, like even as exotic as like sugar gliders. So I'm just a pet person. Like, that's just part of me. And I think a lot of the people that get really into in-game minions are also just pet people.
Yeah, especially if you're playing a lot by yourself, I guess. And it's the grind and it's boring and repetitive, and you're out there all by yourself. At least for me, having a fun pet out that every now and then does something silly, which they do in Final Fantasy, it's such a relief to have the pet around. Honestly, so
you can always just whisper someone in the guild. You can.
Yeah. Exactly.
We're out there for you.
I'm gonna say, like, I'm probably the least alone person in our guild, yet I'm probably the biggest pet junkie.
Yeah, but I am in a different time zone, so a lot of the time, when I say something, no one will answer, so it's really sad.
Now I feel bad. Like,
this is a very sad story now.
Yeah, I think we're getting into some deeper issues.
Can you just change the topic, Rex?
Jason, can we arrange an intervention here?
Yeah, I can arrange that professionally.
God. The poor mini pet lady. No, thank you. Oh my God, this is not what I intended for this topic.
Now you know why we've all gathered you here. This is a safe place.
Like, the big thing for us with mini pets is, like, most of us, or a large chunk of us, idle in Final Fantasy between queues and things in the housing area. Mm-hmm. And so we'll have various mini pets out, and they will interact and do weird little things while we're running around outside the market board. So to some extent, it's almost like a social experience then.
Exactly. So yeah, moving on.
So Jason, how about you? Do you have any kind of affinity towards mini pets or companions in the games you play?
I think it's less pets, and I think I've been thinking about it while everyone else is talking about collecting pets. I don't really do that. I usually forget what pets I have, but I'm more about the companions, like in Neverwinter or Star Trek Online or Old Republic. I like it when I get people that will help make the game easier for me, or maybe rely less on other people. And I think the social part is there for me. Like, I was playing Old Republic this morning, and I was doing missions with my companion, and got that little icon that she wanted to speak to me in the ship, and that kind, like, I look forward to that part. I like the relationship part of that. But to me, it's more focused on, like, in STO or Neverwinter, when I get a drop of a companion who is better than the one I have. Like, that's what I look forward to. But I feel like a cold person now, because the pets part doesn't really do a whole lot for me.
And as for myself, I guess I've been thinking about it too a little bit. I can relate to Roger's way of doing it a little bit. I mean, I can remember in Lotro, it was kind of a big deal to get a drop with a cosmetic pet for a lore master, and you could have a rabbit or a cat or something that didn't really do, any damage to any foes. They were just kind of decorative or for role playing, and it was one of those things where it was a real grind to finally get that drop. And then when you did, you took it out and walked around with it for 10 minutes and thought, oh, that's nice, and put it away. Yeah. One of the things, though, that I like about the game I'm playing now, Marvel Heroes, is that there's you can actually rank your passive pets up to give you passive buffs. So if you feed them enough gear, they can give you some advantage to actually having them out while you're playing the game, which is something that I will bite on that. I won't necessarily bite on the cutesy thing as much, but if I know I'm getting a passive buff from a pet, I will probably use it.
I must admit, I do have a certain amount of affection for one combat pet that I have in Star Trek Online, which is crystalline horta. I call it lightning because you summon it in combat and it travels at about 1 mile per decade. And it's like, go sick 'em, lightning, and it's just like, okay, I'll go and put the kettle on or something, because it's just so ridiculously slow. And then when it finally gets there, it spits a bit of acid at them, and they just sort of say, go away, or they outfox it by just moving somewhere else. But I just like having it there. It's a source of amusement for me. So I suppose you can build up these sort of strange and curious emotional connections to them. And certainly, as Jason said, I like the games where you have companions that are functional and actually are beneficial and have a little bit of a backstory to them. I find them possibly more stimulating than just sort of being followed around by a stoat or a fruit bat or something.
Yeah.
Well, there is a red panda, Roger, in Final Fantasy right now. And every now and then it will sit and sleep on your shoulder. Let me tell you, it will melt your heart. Even yours. So that's all I have to say.
Well, I was watching someone play, I think it was Torchlight or something like that the other day, and they had a combat panda, and I just thought, that is awesome. A combat panda. So might aspire to that. But a red panda kipping on me, oh no, that might melt my heart. I can't have that. It's bad for me.
It is down there, in there somewhere. No, but do they actually have companion pets in WildStar by now? Because I remember that was such a complaint when it launched. I'm not sure.
Do.
Yeah, they do.
They went in and they drop in all sorts of weird places, and I've had friends that have gone crazy trying to hunt them down.
It's the collector thing. But, when I was seriously into Warcraft back in like the Burning Crusade days, and I would go out of my way, I was the person who was spending like 12 hours hunting Easter eggs to get like all the achievements and whatnot. And then you quit. The first time you really quit, like your first love MMO, and you realize that all that stuff you collected in your bank, none of it, it's all ephemeral, like none of it matters. You're probably never going to see it again, and it doesn't really matter. And it's sort of hard for me to get excited about collecting things again when you kind of have that one moment of clarity at how completely ephemeral it all is. And it's like, now I'm just not quite so gotta get them all.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I had that same type of experience in Lotro when I was... One of the big things you do in that game is you collect mounts or horses, and they're all basically the same horse with different colored blankets on them. I mean, there's not a whole lot of variety, I guess, coming out of those, but it's a big thing to do. People have hundreds of these horses that have been released throughout the game. And then at some point you go, I've got a lot of the same horse sitting around in my inventory. They don't really do anything differently. Why am I, spending so much time trying to grind tokens for these things?
The big problem there was, in the past, it used to be each horse had a different run speed. So to actually seek out a superior one had a benefit. So I could totally see why people wanted to collect them, A, to have the collection, and B, you could end up with a horse that's faster. And then Turbine ended up creating a buff that you could buy in the store where you could upgrade the speed of every single horse that you owned. And by doing so, you'd pretty much torpedoed your own collection. Didn't quite make sense to me.
Yep, yeah. We could go into the business model. No, let's not talk about business model.
Don't get me started.
The last topic on our list, I added this one, and it has to do with some of the cross-promotion that we're seeing with between MMOs specifically, but video games, and feature films and television shows. And I'm speaking of things like the World of Warcraft movie that's in production. We've seen a boost from Star Wars feature films once Disney bought them in SWTOR. I heard lots of people say they've gone back to Star Wars: The Old Republic because of the Star Wars trailers that are being released. And of course, we've got all of the cross promotion between the Marvel Heroes game and all of the Marvel, I don't know what you call it. They've got everything out there. So their cross promotion is crazy. Is this kind of a new wave of the way that we're treating MMOs in video games? Is this something that we're going to see a lot more of moving forward? Have we reached the point where MMOs are big enough that they warrant this type of cross promotion from the big studios?
Well, I think in most of your examples, it's going the other way, and the MMOs have taken the ideas from established universes. So like Star Wars or Marvel or that kind of thing. And Warcraft, I think, is probably the first time that we've seen it go the other direction, at least for MMOs. Where there's actually a movie that's being taken from what was purely a game property. And I gotta admit, I'll go see the Warcraft movie. Yeah, sure. I put a lot of hours into that game. Let's go. Let's do it. Get some popcorn.
Wasn't Defiance? Defiance was sort of another example that was kind of simultaneous.
Yeah.
You had a series and also the game. And in the beginning, they sort of advertised it, that if you follow the series, you're going to see what's going to happen in the game later or something, and it didn't really work out that way.
Well, it's still going. They're on season 3 of the show.
But it does not really tie into the game at all, or does it?
I think there's supposed to be some supplemental stuff, but like I haven't heard any buzz about any of the story stuff in the game.
It does a little bit occasionally, like a character, because the game and the show are set in 2 different cities on the opposite sides of America. So occasionally a character will leave the show and show up in the game. It tends to be the way it works. Sort of side characters will show up in your game suddenly. So they are still kind of doing that. And I don't think people are necessarily thrilled about Defiance, but it's kind of a cool idea.
Well, I think it was sold as this grand transmedia experiment, and I don't think it really worked out as well because, quite honestly, the television show was significantly better than the game. And I don't know of anybody who's playing Defiance still right now. Like, there were a lot of people that played it at various points, but no one that I can think of is still actually playing that game. However, I still occasionally watch Defiance the television show because it's still a decent show.
Yeah, that was kind of a border like that. I've watched the show some, and it seemed like the ratings were never really big, but it kept getting renewed, and I just had to imagine the people running that game were like, "Thank God, like it's going for another season," because without that show, I don't know what happens to that game.
Yeah, Defiance never really seemed to find a good audience. The show or the game, for that matter.
Yeah, I don't think the show's lighting it up either. But yeah,
I'm not sure I want the show about the MMO that I play anyway. I mean, maybe it's the same for me as it is with apps for MMOs. I don't have to, eat Warcraft cornflakes in the morning, then play the Warcraft app, shower with the Warcraft soap, and then watch Warcraft on TV.
No,
I do not want to do that.
So you're not a very good gamer. And then you're supposed to fight with people who wash with the Guild Wars 2 soap.
Yes. Though I absolutely have to admit, I did buy some of the World of Warcraft Mountain Dew once upon a time.
yeah, you did.
It was horrible. It was horrible.
What a shock.
So it actually tasted different?
Oh, God, yeah. It was 2 new flavors that have never shown up again. There was like a Horde flavor and Alliance flavor, and the Horde flavor was like a really nasty mix of fruit punch and Gatorade. And
that makes sense.
The Alliance flavor was like, I don't know how to describe it. It was like a passion fruit punch type thing.
Oh, God. That reminds me of the scene in Spaceballs with all the merchandise.
That's where the real money from the movie is made.
Spaceball the flamethrower.
Baseball the toilet paper.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the thing now, isn't it? I mean, consumerism, you're a gamer. You want everything to be video game related.
Well, Syl doesn't. Obviously, she's a heretic. Burn her.
Well, at least, believe me, I'm geeky enough, but it doesn't have to be the same MMO for everything.
This throws up some very interesting sort of concepts because Star Wars The Old Republic was never canon anyway. The whole Star Wars extended universe or expanded universe has now been declared non-canonical. So it's curious that people are sort of gravitating back to that game, but then as soon as you see any sort of blog post about it, one of the first things you'll always see in the comment section, well, I don't know why you waste your time with that. It's not canonical.
Which that argument always just it throws me off because you look at comics and there are so many variations of characters that it's hard to say some of the best stories aren't canon in a main timeline. That if you're enjoying a story in a game or any medium, I don't know why you would care if it doesn't. It means something to you. It doesn't have to mean anything to anything larger. I
agree wholeheartedly, because at this moment in time, we do not have any Star Trek. There are no contemporary Star Trek shows. There are the Star Trek movies in a parallel universe, but that's not true Trek for some people. You've got Star Trek Online that has wonderful writing. It really is exceptionally good, and it has so many callbacks to obscure things from all the shows, yet it is not technically canon. But at this moment in time, it's the only Star Trek fix that you can really get if you're into serious Trek.
Yeah.
Well, I think that kind of wraps up the show, and I thank everybody for showing up. We're going to run through real quick the contact information. Belgast, where can people get a hold of you?
I am Belgast on Twitter. I post daily on Tales of the Agronaut at agronaut.com, and all of that wonderful stuff also shows up on agrochat.com.
Okay, Jason?
I am Jabberant on Twitter, 2Bs, 1R, and the fairly newly launched MMO show. You can check us out on that download.
Sil?
I'm Gypsy_Sil on Twitter. I blog at mmogypsy.com, and I occasionally podcast at battlebards.libsyn.com.
Okay, Roger?
You can find me on Twitter on @moderateperil. You can laugh at my writing at containsmoderateperil.com, and you can torture yourself with the podcast, which is the Burton and Scrooge podcast, which you can find at all good podcast outlets.
Leor?
Wow, Roger, way to sell it. You can find me on Twitter at LIORE, I blog at leorblog.com, and Cat Context Podcast comes out every 2 weeks, and it is leorblog.com/Cat Context Podcast.
And I have been and still am Braxwolf, BRAXWOLF on Twitter, and Braxwolf.com is my blog. And you can listen to my podcast, Beyond Boss Fights, on, as Roger said, any of the successful podcast outlets.
And listen to TGEN. TGEN's awesome and has great shows.
Yes, the Gaming and Entertainment Network. Thanks for being here, everybody.
Bye.
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 Sil? Are you with us, Sil?
She's off buying everything for her MMO. She's come to the light and realized
Hold
that
on.
she needs to.
Sorry. I had my microphone muted still because I was coughing. Sorry, Brax. So yeah, I'm Gypsy_Sil on Twitter. I blog at